From Launch Complex 39 at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, this is Shuttle Launch Control at T-minus 3 hours and holding. We are now in the final 5½ hours of the countdown for the launch of the Space Shuttle Atlantis on the second mission to dock with the Russian Mir space station. At T-minus 3 hours and holding, this is Shuttle Launch Control. And it's taken somewhat longer than usual to fill the liquid oxygen tank today, since we had a brief failure of the liquid oxygen pump at the launch pad at the storage tank. Here we are now in the dining room at the crew quarters, where we see the 5 STS-74 crew members. And at the end of the table is Mission Specialist Bill McArthur. Canadian astronaut and mission specialist Chris Hadfield. The commander of our mission, Ken Cameron. Mission specialist and flight engineer Jerry Ross. And at the far end of the table, our pilot, James Halsell. And after lunch, they'll go for a briefing on the weather outlook, of great interest to them this morning, and then to the crew suit-up room to don their launch and entry suits. This is Shuttle Launch Control at T-minus 3 hours and holding, where we are now in the suit-up room, and we see our commander, Ken Cameron. Going across the room, and our pilot, James Halsell, undergoing their final suit-up and check-out of their helmet, pressurization checks. Mission Specialist Chris Hadfield, who will be operating the remote manipulator arm during this flight. Going across the room, again, we see Bill McArthur finishing his suit-up activities. And this should be Jerry Ross, indeed. These launch and entry suits are not very comfortable, but they're certainly functional, very visible. Temperature now at the launch pad at 58 degrees. Picking up the count now in 3, 2, 1, T-minus 3 hours and counting. This is Shuttle Launch Control at T-minus 2 hours, 54 minutes, 55 seconds and counting. And the STS-74 astronauts now are leaving the suit-up room, headed for the elevator, going from the 3rd floor of the operations and checkout building down to the awaiting astronaut transfer van. closeout crew is waiting them. We hope to have at least one site available to us. This is shuttle launch control at T-minus 2 hours, 31 minutes, 43 seconds and counting. In the white room at the pad, we see our commander, Ken Cameron. Seeing now pilot James Halsell being prepared for his entry into Atlantis. This is shuttle launch control at T-minus 2 hours, 17 minutes, 20 seconds and counting. James Halsell now boarding Atlantis, and astronaut Bill McArthur is now being assisted with his launch and entry suit and his helmet. And in the white room, we see Canadian astronaut mission specialist Chris Hadfield finishing his suit up and being assisted by the closeout crew.
Houston, Atlantis, contract.
Atlantis, Houston, good morning, Ken. Seems like we just did this.
Yeah, good morning, Blaine. Yeah, it seems like deja vu all over again, but I think this is the last time. I feel pretty good about the situation. I hope it's still looking good over there.
Yeah, there's some little gotchas hanging around out there, but I think we can hopefully get those things to work out and get you guys on your way today. We'll look forward to a good launch.
Okay, thanks. We'll be talking to you.
See now mission specialist Jerry Ross suiting up. He'll be the last aboard. And he's our flight engineer, so on both ascent and descent, he'll be sitting in the aft center seat.
And CDR, on behalf of the launch team, we hope the day's a day for you, and we hope you have a good ride up the Mir.
Roger that. Thank you very much for all the work. Sorry we had to do this twice, but I think we're ready now, and everything looks good. We sure appreciate all the effort.
Stop transition is complete. GPS is ready for the BFS transition Alpha 101. Copy. Thank you. CDR OTC.
CDR is ready.
Clear past fault some and take BFS to Ops 1 per your checklist.
And MNT launch director.
Jim, the MMT is working, no issues, you're cleared to launch.
Copy that. And Atlantis, looks like we got everything lined up, ready for you guys to go, so have a good mission, and we'll see you back here in about 8 days.
Roger that. Thanks very much, sir. We sure appreciate the help.
And NTD launch director, you have a clearance to launch.
NTD copies, thank you.
Orbiter's flight controls have been tested. and standing by now to gimbal the main engines. We see the speed brake being cycled here. And now the main engines are gimbling or being moved through their operational latitudes. T-minus 3 minutes.
GLS is go for ET LO2 pressurization.
Liquid oxygen tank now being pressurized. Weather Officer Ed Priscillic just has passed the word that they are now officially green at the pad.
Memory and verify no unexpected errors.
Somewhere.
And the gaseous oxygen vent hood, known as the GOX beanie cap, now being retracted.
Copy.
Ground launch sequencer will make a check at T-minus 37 seconds to make sure that it's in the fully retracted position.
Flight crew OTT, close and lock your visors and initiate O2 flow. And looks like the second time was a charm. Have a good flight.
Roger that, thank you. And that's complete.
GLS is go for ET LH2 pressurization.
And that was orbiter test conductor Mike Key from Lockheed Martin wishing the crew a good flight. T-minus 1 minute, 30 seconds. Liquid hydrogen tank now at flight pressure. T-minus 1 minute. Ground launch sequencer now verifying the main engines are ready for ignition. Heaters around the joints of the solid rocket boosters are being turned off. The sound suppression water system is being armed. Flight data recorder is now recording. Fill and drain valves on the external tank are closed, standing by for the handoff to the orbiter's computers. And the handoff has been completed. Atlantis' computers now controlling.
20.
Sound suppression water system activated.
15. 10.
10, 9, 8, 7. Go for main engine start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And liftoff of Space Shuttle Atlantis with the Russian docking module, the threshold to world cooperation in space.
Roger, roll, Atlantis.
Three main engines on Atlantis are now throttling back to 2/3 throttle to allow the spacecraft to pass through the area of maximum air pressure. Atlantis already traveling 700 miles per hour, altitude 4 nautical miles, downrange from the launch pad 2 nautical miles.
Atlantis, go at throttle up.
Roger, go throttle up.
Atlantis 3 main engines are now back at full throttle. Atlantis altitude 12 miles, 9 miles downrange from the launch pad. Atlantis is now traveling 2,400 miles per hour. 1 minute 40 seconds since launch, Atlantis has already burned more than 2.25 million pounds of propellant and weighs less than half of what it did at liftoff. Flight controllers are now standing by for burnout and jettison of the twin solid rocket booster first stage. Booster officer confirms a good separation of the twin solid rockets.
Might have some holes in it. It was kind of buff colored. When we were opening the port door, it seemed to be riding up the aft bulkhead as if it was part of the mechanism. And then once we got the door mostly open, we saw that it was floating free. And it was moving fairly fast away from the vehicle.
Copy, and you've captured some good images.
Run that again for you if you like. Say again.
Chris, I think we saw what we needed. We did tape it.